get a blank sheet of paper, draw a circle in the middle of the page with your big idea or that broken record conversation that you keep having, and then just spend 15 minutes and just write out all the things you can think of on that topic. The most important thing that so many people miss is how can I strategically structure this book to bring back leads, sales, and referrals for the business.
I think that all entrepreneurs need to create content. A book is just a really strong piece of content.
90 days to get your draft done and another 90 days or 3 to 6 months to publish is extremely realistic.
Today I've got a college dropout who went from $0 to $45 million selling books. Now, the funny thing about this guy is I've come across him multiple times before we've ever met. The first was this book right here, Published, which he wrote. I actually read this book. The funny story of how I found out about this book, Ty Lopez recommended it. I saw it on Twitter. He was like, I just read this book and it was great. If you ever want to write a book, this is the book to read. And I was like, okay. So I read the book and I immediately wrote Flip Your Future, my very first book in 2018, based on a lot of the principles from this book. And so that kind of started off my career as a guru and, definitely got me that first book and it was amazing. From there, I ended up meeting this guy in a prayer group with my friend Pete Vargas and some other cool people who have now intertwined in so many ways. In that same group, I met John Acuff, who was on the podcast, and he recommended a guy named Jeff Goins, who ended up recommending and helping me write the Wealthy Way book. And it's just all full circle. I've got Chandler Bolt with me today. What's up, man?
Great to be here.
Yeah, I bet you didn't know that all that happened behind the scenes.
I didn't. And to be honest, I didn't even know that Ty Lopez promoted the book. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's fun. Well, I mean, Ty Lopez, he does read a book a day, apparently, from what he says.
Yeah. Well, and we publish about 2 to 3 books a day. So
that's great. How many books have you guys published?
At least 7,000 books in the last 8 years that we can track that are paying customers. There's probably thousands more than that, but that's we can put our hat behind that as a for sure.
Yeah, so I want to get into why books are really important and why every entrepreneur should write a book, because I can tell you as somebody who's now written 2 books. By the way, if you guys haven't gotten The Wealthy Way, go get the book now. It's been #1 on Amazon for a while.
Leave this man a review.
Leave a review. You tell me what I'm doing wrong with The Wealthy Way book too, by the way. But also too, I want to get into that deeply, how people can write books, and it's probably easier than you think. But what exactly is your business? So people know. Yeah, so
I run a company called selfpublishing.com, and we put the power back in the hands of the authors, and we're creating the future of publishing. So it's kind of a lot of the benefits of traditional publishing mixed with a lot of the benefits of self-publishing, but without all of the hard work and tediousness of getting the book across the finish line. So, I mean, ultimately, we help people write better books that grow their business, which that's what I think we can really impact here is, all right, it's one thing to write a book, but you're not going to become wealthy just off the book itself. It's how do you position this book in a way where it builds your authority and it brings in leads, sales, and referrals for your business.
100%. Yeah, I tell people all the time, content is for sure the #1 way to get leads and grow your business. And a book is just a form of content.
Yeah. With inherent perceived value.
Yeah.
People say, oh, I already know that I pay money for this type of thing. And if I'm paying you for this type of thing, the root word of authority is author, right? You can't spell the word authority without the word author. So you instantly become an authority in the minds of those readers, which in our world, it doesn't seem like a big deal. It's right. Oh, you wrote a book. I wrote a book. Yeah, All of our friends have written books, but then you forget that 81% of people want to write a book according to the New York Times, and less than 1% of people actually do it.
Right.
So automatically when you do that, you are an authority in the minds of your ideal customers.
Right. And you guys have done over $45 million helping people write books.
Correct.
It's crazy. So how'd you even get on this journey of becoming an author?
Yeah.
and then a publisher?
Unlikely. I mean, an unlikely journey. I'm a college dropout and a C-level English student with ADHD.
Okay.
So I dropped out of school because I was tired of learning how to run a business from professors who have never ran businesses. That didn't make sense. But I'd ran some businesses in high school and college. And then I wrote a couple books on kind of my life experience running businesses thus far for my friends. I wrote the books thinking, hey, this would be helpful for them. And then they just did really well. And so people started asking, hey, how are you doing this? And it's kind of probably similar to your experience in the real estate investing world, where you're doing it, and people are like, hey, how are you doing this?
Yep.
And then finally you turn around one day and you realize that all these people keep asking, how are you doing this? So then you create the education arm. So that's kind of similar to what happened with us.
Yeah, and that's exactly like why I wrote Flip Your Future. You know, I had been flipping houses successfully for 2018, so 4 years, and everybody just kept asking me, dude, how do you flip houses? How do you flip houses? And I honestly just got tired of answering the question. I was just like, dude, I need to create a guide or something to stop this. And so what happened was I went to 10X Growth Con here in Vegas in 2018, which is ironic because it's this week that we're filming this too.
Yeah.
It's all full circle. And I remember going there and I saw Ty Lopez. I didn't even know who Ty Lopez was back then. I was a baseball player. Like, I didn't know any of these entrepreneur guys. And I saw Russell Brunson, and they both had like a similar message. Like Russell was like, hey, let's build your authority. You have a skill. People want to learn it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know. People have been asking me about this forever. He's like, here's how you do funnels. Here's how you make money off your skill. You can start with a book. And I was like, okay, I need a book. And then Ty Lopez said something similar. And then it just so happened like a week or two later, I just started following Ty Lopez, and he posted your book. And he was like, hey, if you guys are trying to write a book, this is a book I recommend on writing books. And I was like, all right. So I bought the book. And then I remember reading your story, and I was like, all right. Like, writing a book isn't that as hard as I thought it would be.
Right.
And I ended up writing Flip Your Future in about 45 days after.
Wow. That's awesome. I want to just kind of pull out, because I think this might be helpful for people listening or watching, is pull out those questions that you asked, which I think is really helpful, which is, all right, what's the broken record conversation that you're having in your business right now that you would love to just stop answering that question? Best way to stop answering that question, write a book about that thing, and then point to that book.
Yep.
And so, like, what's that question that you keep getting asked about? Or what's that thing that you just want to scale from one to one to one to many?
Yep.
And because that, I mean, in my opinion, that's why you do a book, because a book answers those questions at scale. And then it brings back lead sales and referrals for the business.
100%. Yeah, and that was why I wrote The Wealthy Way, too, is because, you know, for those of you who haven't read it, the subtitle is Don't Go Broke Trying to Get Rich. And
it's a great subtitle.
Thank you.
So good.
Jeff Goins thought of it. And, you know, basically I kept getting asked over and over. They were like, Ryan, how do you run all these businesses and still spend time with your family and still, you know, you're doing Bible studies, you're going to church, you're like, how do you do it all? I don't get it. And I was like, man, that's a very tough question to answer. Like, if I had to sit down and write it out, like, there would be a system to it. I just have to like really think, how do I do it? And so I just started writing out everything, and that became known as The Wealthy Way. And, you know, now the book's there. I'm
excited to read the book, by the way, because I want to know how you do it.
All right.
I mean,
well, as someone, make sure you leave a review.
I will. You got it, man. You got it. I just feel like as someone, you know, with the ADHD, I kind of got to focus on one thing, and my one thing has been books and selfpublishing.com. So it's really impressive to just see how you've built all of these businesses. So I'm excited to read it.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny about this book? It was different than the first book, where the first book was, hey, I'll write the book and then I'll create the education program after. So I'll create the course and eventual coaching and other things. This book started out as a course I made over a year ago called Wealth Builder Academy. And I really didn't have an intention to like write another book. I was like, I'm gonna make this course because I know I can make this course in like a month and put it out and do it really effectively. And I was like, people are video learners these days. Like, even though I love reading books, I know a lot of people just like consuming content better. So I made the course first, and then we made that course into the book. So I got a question for you about that, is that, you know, the world of books is very different today than it was 5-10 years ago, when people prefer video content now. So what do you say about that with books?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think twofold. If you already have a course that you've created, you've written the book, you just didn't know it.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah. I mean, so the modules or, you know, sections or whatever your course, or the sections in your book, the individual lessons or chapters in your book. So I think there's that piece, but then there's like the modality for people who want to go deeper. And in my opinion, the highest end clientele are readers. And so, yes, the video are the casual browsers, but then the people who want to go deep, it's a simple way to go from browsing to paying customer. $10, $15, $20. But as you know, people who pay attention, right? So as soon as I've paid money and I go from that podcast, or I'm listening to this podcast, I'm like, oh, he's got a Wealthy Way book. Let me read that book. Now I'm invested. We've spent hours together in a different format. And then not to mention for me, which I'd be curious if you do this with the Wealthy Way or your other books, is audiobooks.
Yep.
And so
I narrated it myself.
Super smart. And so now you're the type of audience who listens to podcasts is probably also the type of audience who would listen to your audiobook.
Yeah.
And so I think you can attract your best customers and go deeper through the format of a book.
Yeah. No, 100%.
I've seen it happen for me and for a bunch of our customers.
Yeah, I tell people this all the time. So we have a company called Wealthy Creator, which is teaching entrepreneurs how to do social media. And I always say that, of course, you're going to get more views on short form content like TikToks and Instagram Reels and stuff like that. The 30 seconds. So like I get drastically, 10x more views on that form of content. But the thing is, that person watching that's not necessarily a buyer, right? Mm-hmm. Because I get a lot of people who like recognize me and they'll say, you're that guy on TikTok. You're like the real estate guy. They don't even know my name, right? But they recognize me.
Yep.
And then the people at my events and things that have been paid for, like they'll tell me, they'll be like, yeah, dude, I love the podcast you did with so-and-so and this and that. And it, like, you realize the people who are willing to watch like longer form pieces of content, AKA an hour-long podcast, or read a 4 or 5 hour book, those people are, like you're saying, they're the ones who are the buyers.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. So what do you think are, I guess, the steps for an entrepreneur to write a book? Because I'm sure you deal with this all the time. They're like, dude, I don't know how to write. I can barely read. Like, how am I supposed to write a book?
Yeah. When I can empathize with that, because, I was the guy who hated reading and writing and, seeing C-level English student and college dropout. So I look at this as like, and I kind of map this out in the book, is like there's these 8 milestones, right? So the 8 milestones to go from blank page to publish. The first 4 are the more writing method, which is mind map, outline, rough draft, editing, right? And so that's where I think a lot of people so if you're watching this or listening to this, I would encourage you, take 15 minutes as soon as this is over, get a blank sheet of paper, draw a circle in the middle of the page with your big idea or that broken record conversation that you keep having, right? And then just spend 15 minutes and just write out all the things you can think of on that topic. So like that's the best and first step. Then that kind of kicks off this more writing method, which is, you read version number 1 of this book, which I think was not even as good and as crystallized. But that helped, it sounds like, for you to write your book in 45 days. Yep. Then you move into kind of more professional editing. Then it's cover design, formatting, launch. And so those are kind of like the final milestones. So that's the process.
You know what? I remember now, one thing that stuck out to me in your book that I remember vividly that I now think about with content was the cover. And you were like, look, the cover is probably the most important thing. Because if nobody ever clicks it and sees it, then it doesn't matter. And you made the point of like, look, it's going to be on a small screen. Yeah. Like you need a huge, bold cover.
Right.
And so my first book was bright. It was blue and orange. Yeah. And like the arrow and the house were just huge. Mm-hmm. And you could see it on a small screen, exactly what it said. It was massive. And it's funny now because now that I'm a YouTuber, I know the same is true with thumbnails. Yeah, totally. It's the exact same. Yep. I'm like, the word has to be big. Your face has to be big. It's on a small screen. If they never click the thumbnail, they'll never know how good the content was.
Right.
And it's like, it all comes full circle. It's the same thing.
When I think it's the same. That's the cool thing about learning these mediums, right? Is it's the same thing with this podcast and the thumbnail for this podcast.
Yep.
Right. And so it's transferable. But to your point, like I look at a good book cover. A good book cover is kind of like a billboard, right? And it's the billboard for your book. And so what is a good book, or what does a good billboard do? The same thing that a good billboard does, the same thing that a good book cover does, is 3 things. Number 1, it grabs attention, right? So it stands out. And I think this is the point that you were making is stood out from my first edition of this book. Is I said, hey, look at that thumbnail up next to the next 20 top books in the business category. does it jump off the page or not?
Right.
Right. And so then there's that first test. There's number 2. Is the title easy to read?
Yep.
And is
Published.
it clear? Right. Published. What do you think? And then that rolls into the third piece, which is, all right, does your prospect or potential reader instantly understand what the book's about or whether or not it's for them? It's like, well, what do you think this book's about? It's about how to publish a book, right? And then you read a little bit more. All right, it speaks to proven path. So that's social proof, right? There's from blank page that evokes an emotion. It's like, oh man, I viscerally feel that blank page, right? And then to 10,000 copies sold, it's a benefit statement,
Yep.
right? And so that's what I think of is, all right, grabs attention, title's easy to read, it's clear, not clever. A lot of people try to do, weird stuff with their cover that they think artistically is clever or looks cool, but it doesn't convert, right?
Yeah.
It's called best-selling author or best-selling book cover, not best written author, or not
Right.
best designed cover. That's a, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki quote. He said,
Yeah.
it's called best-selling author, not best written author.
Right. So speaking of covers, I made my first cover the way you described, and the book's called Flip Your Future, and it's done great. The second book, it was interesting while we were thinking about the cover, because now at this point I had many years of thumbnail experience, podcast and marketing, and so I was in a much different place. And so Jeff and I, who helped me with the book, were talking about this, and we were like, okay, what are you thinking for cover? How do we want to do this and all this stuff? And I'm like, what are your thoughts on putting me actually on there, right? Because I know some books do it, others don't. And I've never been a guy who was like making it all about me. Like, I don't care whether I'm on the cover or not. I'm like, what's going to perform best? That's all I care about. And, the more we talked about it, the more it was like, well, on social media at this point, in just 2 years, really, I've gotten 500 million views. And so it's like my face is now recognizable. And we know that on YouTube thumbnails, a face always works way better than everything else.
Oh, interesting.
So like an expression, just like your face
totally,
has
yeah.
to be on every
Yeah,
YouTube thumbnail. And
yeah.
I'm like, I know traditionally books aren't like face driven. Maybe, I don't know what the statistics are, but maybe 20% of books probably have a person on them. And I was like, but I don't know. I think we should probably do it. He's like,
Right.
I agree. And
Yeah.
we got the cover we got. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. I think at the end of the day, if your face sells books, or if the goal of your book is to build recognition of your face and your personal brand, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it probably doesn't. So
Right.
I'm with you. It's kind of like split testing a thumbnail. It's like, all right, well, what's going to convert? But if it sounds like you've already got a ton of views on all your stuff, and so your face is recognizable.
Yeah.
So if I see that and I'm like, oh, that's the guy I saw on TikTok,
Yep.
real estate guy, this is interesting, and it drives me to click, then I think it makes a lot of sense. Where it doesn't make sense, I think, is for people who have no name.
Yeah.
And
And at the
it's-
time, I had no name in my first book. So there's no face. There's
Totally.
nothing.
It's very benefit driven, right?
Yeah.
It's the house. It's a clear title. It's like, all right, I understand what this is about. So I think it's probably a smart move.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
honestly, it doesn't matter what I think. Like, I'd split test it.
But can you just change your book cover like left and right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, that's the beauty of self-publishing.
Yeah.
is you can.
Yeah, I
you
guess
can
you could,
test
but
it.
it's just
Yeah.
like, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird, but you could definitely do it. Or at a minimum, what a lot of people do is just test all the cover options in ads,
Yeah.
and then see what gets the most clicks, and then you just run with that cover.
That makes sense. So with ads, let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really run ads to the book or anything. So what's your opinion on all that?
Yeah, I think they can work really well. I mean, Amazon. A lot of our authors are having success with Amazon ads.
Yep.
Because it's the cost has gone up, and it used to 6 months ago, a year ago, it was more of a blue ocean. Now it's getting more competitive, but it still can convert really, really well. But then I would also look at, for you, what would probably work the best is free plus shipping funnel. And so the free plus shipping funnel, I mean, you know this with all the ads that you've ran, it's like you're looking at, all right, what's my cost of acquisition for the book? What's my average order value and lifetime value? And is my average order value is lifetime value of a customer better than the cost of acquiring that customer, right? And so free plus shipping funnels are one of our best converting funnels, and we got away from it, and then now we're kind of like spinning up some more funnels because we look back at the data and it's like, man, these just crushed. They work
Yeah.
so well, and at a minimum, someone pays $7 and they get the book in their living room.
Yep.
Right. And so that we're still there, and there's that top of mind awareness, and
They just see the book.
yeah, and we can basically break even. If you've got $7 shipping and handling fee on your free plus shipping, it's less than break even, so you're not quite breaking even. But now you've got a list of buyers instead of a list of just subscribers. So that's how I would look at it if I were you running ads to the book.
Yeah, one thing you showed me in your book that you said I need to do is give the Audible for free in the book.
Yeah.
Why do that?
Well, so there's two things, and kind of what you're alluding to is like there's the first couple pages so a couple things here. One is I look at, all right, how do I turn more readers into subscribers or paying customers?
Right.
And so, Amazon obviously doesn't give you the customer list.
Yep.
So very beginning of the book, we give away audio and video, because what we've seen is that people, when they're starting a book, the last thing they want is something else to read.
Right.
And a lot of times people will give away something to read. And so we said, hey, if we can give away the audiobook, it has inherent value.
Yeah.
I know that, hey, this is $15 to $20. Oh my gosh, Ryan's giving this to me for free. Like,
Yeah.
what a guy. I already love you. And so, all right, there's the audiobook, there's the video, and that can be your top performing webinar. So you're just turning, readers, and it's a video summary, right? So you're helping people consume the information in the way that they prefer. And specifically with the audiobook, I look at, it's the kind of like I was just saying, the inherent value of, all right, I would pay for this. So of course I'm willing to give my name, email, phone number, et cetera, for this. Now you can also funnel leads off of Amazon because of the look inside feature. There's kind of like that look inside, and now I see, and that's what I know people do with me, but it's like, oh my gosh, Chandler's an idiot. He doesn't even know that I can look inside and just get the audiobook for free. Well, of course I know that. That's worth way more to me than the $2 for them purchasing the Kindle book, right? So that's how we funnel hundreds, if not thousands of leads a month off of Amazon and into our ecosystem. And then lastly, one thing that works really well, and you could bundle up with this podcast, is giving me the audiobook on Audible.
Yeah.
And so what I do is we have a link. It's like publishedbook.com/audible, I think, or /audiobook. So it's an easy to remember link, except I can't remember.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. But it takes people to the Audible account, and you say, hey, go get a copy of the book at wealthyway.com/audio.
I have
Something like
wealthywaybook.com.
There you go. So wealthywaybook.com/audio or something like that. And Audible gives you a bounty. It's like $50 to $100 for every person that downloads your book and ends up being an Audible subscriber.
I saw that.
It's
I've
actually
had that
a
on my
really
thing.
lucrative income stream.
I know.
So-
I looked at that. I was like, what are these $50 things that
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Now, this could be you drove them there, or they could do that randomly. But so it's just an easy way to say, all right, go get the book for free on Audible. Now, either they're going to get a trial of Audible or they have a credit. Either
Right.
way, they're getting the book for free.
Right.
And so it's just another way to just make it easy for people to consume the content of the book. And it can be pretty lucrative for you as the author.
Yeah. I was looking at my royalties as we're talking. I don't ever even look. I got to start looking at the data more and just see my reports.
Mm-hmm.
Today, my book's made $20. Those are my
There we go.
royalties.
Mailbox money.
That's Chipotle money. That's Chipotle money.
Yeah.
No, books are cool. I remember like when I first wrote the book and I made like $3,000 one month. I was like, what? I mean, like the point wasn't to sell books. That's not like what I was trying to live on. But I was like, that's crazy that I just made $3,000 like nothing.
Well, and it's the mailbox money, right? So years from now, if you're, bringing in a few $100, a few $1,000, it's passive income on a way that's, not obviously as lucrative as a lot of real estate investing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, it's a good two birds, one stone where, all right, you're bringing in income and royalties, sure, but you're bringing back leads, sales, and referrals for the business. Like
1,000%.
that's what I think is the most important thing that so many people miss is how can I strategically structure this book to bring back leads, sales, and referrals for the business, and not have it be a glorified sales pamphlet, because no one likes that, right? But it's true value in the book, and then the book is the silent salesman that brings back people into your ecosystem.
100%. WealthCon is coming to Hollywood. If you've ever been to any of my events, you know they're life-changing. We get the best speakers, we have the best venues, we have the best parties, after parties, and networking that you could imagine. I've met so many people who ended up becoming business partners of mine at my events. I've made great relationships, and the people who have attended have done the same. And so I want to see you at my next one in Hollywood, California, April 4th to the 6th. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We've got speakers like Chris Crone, Lewis House. We got Built from Bigger Pockets. The list goes on and on. We have a huge lineup of speakers, and I want you to be there. So if you want to attend the event and learn more, go to wealthcon.org. Once again, you can go to wealthcon.org and go learn more about the event and register today. So what do you think about, I mean, you guys do publishing. Do you think everyone should self-publish?
For the most part. I mean, the only time it makes sense to traditionally publish, maybe, is if you have a massive audience and you can get a huge advance.
Okay.
Even then, though, I mean, there's a lot of people who successfully self-publish, and you own the IP, you have creative liberty. Like if you want to use the book to grow your business, you can give away the audiobook for free.
Yeah.
You can do all these different types of things that will end up making you way more money from the book. So for 99.9% of people listening or watching, it definitely makes more sense to self-publish.
Yeah, I when I was getting ready to write The Wealthy Way, I looked at it and I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? And so Jeff and I talked about it, and he's like, okay, well, you for sure could get a royalty or whatever, a deal with a normal publisher. And we talked about my goals, and I was like, yeah, I want to get this thing out by the end of the year. I mean, we started the process in January to release it in December. He's like, all right, well, that's not going to happen. If we're like, you're going to spend a year pitching the book and then another year in development and all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, and then you're going to have no flexibility.
Right.
But we could get you a big advance. And I was like, so if I want to sell it for 99 cents on Kindle, do you think they're going to let me do that? And he's like, no, they're not going to let you do that.
Yeah.
And so we just talked about it, and we're like, all right, well, I guess we're going the self-publishing route again. Like,
right.
I want to get this thing out fast. I want to have full control. And
well, time is money, right? It's like if I'm spending 2.5 years to publish this with a traditional publisher, sure, they might give me $100,000 advance or a few $100,000, maybe if you're lucky and have a massive audience. But what's the opportunity cost that you're going to give up in that time?
Yeah,
you could be selling books and bringing people into the ecosystem.
So I'll share this number with people just so they know. So I released the Wealthy Way book in December. It's been officially 2 months, actually, today. It's February 13th. December 13th was the release date. It has made me a little over $6,000 in royalties. Majority of that is from print because the Kindle's only 99 cents.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
nice.
A book is, and by the way, I spent about 60 grand in everything to get the book written. So I'm definitely down on the book as far as that portion, but that's not why I wrote it.
I'd be curious the trackable sales coming in the ecosystem.
Oh yeah.
Like that's where the money's going to be. And that's where I think you could really, kind of like we were talking about before the interview, is like, all right, how do you structure this a little bit more strategically so that it brings in?
Well, to your point, most people aren't going to spend 60 grand, right? Like, so what's the typical person going to spend publishing with you?
Yeah, 6 to 12 grand.
6 to 12 grand.
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
So if you just get, if you're in real estate or education, you really need like one deal.
One customer.
And it paid for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, even with my stuff, we've gotten more than 60 grand already. Like I just don't even track it.
Yeah.
So, and to your point too, it adds the credibility piece to it too, where it's like, having a book and having just like the exposure with it is very valuable. It's hard to quantify.
Yeah, it is. Man, I'd be really interested because you do a ton of stuff on TikTok, right? Mm-hmm. I literally just interviewed this girl the other day, who she is. I want to say she's making 7 figures in royalties from her book.
Really?
And she has it's on TikTok, which I'm not like a big TikTok guy.
Her book is on TikTok.
No, her major customer acquisition channel for the book is TikTok.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like, okay, 7 personal finance tips, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's not in the finance niche. I'm just thinking out loud for stuff that you could do with your book. But it was really fascinating for me. I mean, this is like a memoir, which is really hard to sell.
Right.
But she was predominantly bringing people in through TikTok. So it feels like there's like
Organically or paid ads?
organically.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she's making 7-figure from book royalties on TikTok?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
If I'm remembering the numbers correctly. I mean, it's a lot.
That's a lot of books to sell.
It's a ton of books, and she's self-published, so she keeps the lion's share of her royalty. But I think it's like her book. One of her books is called Eat, Pray, FML, and it's like kind of this crazy story. And so she'll splice up stuff into different TikTok videos, and that was interesting to me because there's the whole book talk.
Yeah. Yeah. What is book talk? I've heard that too.
It's the author portion of TikTok where there's a lot of different ways to do it, but some people will do fiction books and they'll say, hey, crazy story, and they'll tell this story and it's like, actually that wasn't me, but that's in this book, right? It's their fictional novel. And so it's kind of like attention grabbing, but it's this whole world of TikTok. I mean, I'm like the last, I'm social media inept. So I'm like kind of the last person to explain this, but it's an area of TikTok of raving fan readers and authors.
Just all the TikTokers.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, I mean, what's a realistic time frame and skill set for someone to write a book? Because a lot of people, they're still probably listening to this like, dude, there's no way I could write a book.
Yeah.
How does it happen?
Yeah. I mean, you did it in 45 days off of the first version of the book. I mean, for us, it's like, all right, 90 days to get your draft done and another 90 days or 3 to 6 months to publish is extremely realistic. Somewhere around the range of like 50 to 60% of our authors write and publish their book within a year of signing up with us.
Got it.
So it's very realistic if you go to work with it. We have this 30-day rough draft challenge where we, help people write their drafts faster. But if you think about it, 1,000 words a day, 30 days, that's 30,000 words, which is most of the length of a normal length book, right? Average length of a book is, somewhere 40, 60,000 words, kind of traditional nonfiction. My guess would be that the Wealthy Way is probably about 40,000.
I have no idea. No.
So, I mean, but you're most of the way to a book, to a rough draft in a month, and then let's say 9 months to 12 months to get it published, all told.
Got it. No, that makes sense. So I guess on the other side of this business, like, you got into the education space, teaching people how to, publish books and everything. How's it been growing that business? Like, 'cause that's not something you were like trying to get into.
Yeah. It's been interesting. I love it. I mean, I believe that books change lives, right?
Yeah.
It's like books change the lives of readers and of authors. So it's kind of cool to be able to help people create a thing that then goes on to impact thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even millions of people. So it's been a lot of fun. It's I certainly wasn't the business I expected to be in, as a college dropout running a school for self-publishing and now with selfpublishing.com. But we've grown really quick. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list a bunch of years in a row, and it helped me land on the Forbes 30 under 30 list and a bunch of stuff like that. It's been growing really fast. And so it's been fun, unconventional path to I think what I thought would happen, but I've been having a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. So, I mean, what else are the plans for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we want to reinvent the publishing industry. That's the big goal. Was where so many authors, they go the traditional publishing route, and it's kind of like the taxi industry before Uber came along. It's like, all right, everyone knows this is like kind of slimy, not a great experience, and there's a better way. And so we want to reinvent the publishing industry, put the power back in the hands of authors, and then help people publish books that really grow their business.
Right.
Like, that's where I just think so many people are missing the mark, where they're leaving a lot of money on the table, or they know that they should write a book, but they just don't do it for a long time because they don't see how they can ROI for their business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the same conversation I've been having with entrepreneurs about our business Wealthy Creator, because, in traditional entrepreneurship, you just think about, okay, well, how do I generate revenue for my business? All right, well, I'm going to go cold call. I'm going to go prospect. I'm going to go just set appointments, and, you do all these things to generate revenue, or I'm going to go buy Facebook ads, and right. And I'm over here saying like, nah, guys, trust me, create content.
Yeah.
Content is
It's an asset.
Well, number one, it's giving you the best kind of lead, number one. Number two, it's evergreen. You make
Yes.
great content, it's going to be out there forever. and you don't have to keep paying for traffic. And number 3, it's just like you can become known just like omnipresent wise without having to do all these things. And so, my thing has been like, guys, take your freaking $5,000 budget a month on whatever you're doing and devote it to content.
Right.
Start making videos, build a team, do all that, right? And I think a book goes hand in hand with that message of like, guys, this is content. This is helping you build your brand. And it's kind of the guidebook to you.
Right.
It's like somebody follows you on content. They don't really know much about you. Hey, by the way, I got this book.
Yes.
Read The Wealthy Way. This is like literally what I believe and how you can be like me.
Yes.
Essentially.
When I look at it as like content at scale with a little bit more depth. So
Right.
someone can go from the 5-minute video or the 15-minute video or the 30-second video to spending hours with you in an evergreen way that then brings them into your ecosystem.
So what are your thoughts on ghostwriting and everything? Because a lot of people watching this may be like, dude, I just can't write.
Yeah, don't
Like,
have time.
how do I do it?
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, it's not the right move. And simply because, if when I read a book that I've written, I'm like, this sucks. The rough draft, right?
Yeah.
But then when I pay someone 25, 50, 100 grand to ghostwrite a book, I especially think that sucks. So it's really hard to write a great book in your voice. Now, I think you're kind of like the exception. Like Jeff Goins, world-class writer. Like he knows your voice, he knows your audience. So that's like, in my opinion, the best case of the best case of the best case of ghostwriting experiences. And I think that was a super smart move on your part. Outside of that, I think it's really hard to find a great ghostwriter that can write a great book in your voice. So for me, what I'd normally recommend for entrepreneurs, and I've got so many of my entrepreneur buddies who are like, Chandler, you just don't get it though. I don't have time. And I'm like, I get it, but just invest like 90 days, an hour a day, and just write this book in your voice. And to your point, it's the content creation asset. Like, you will not regret this.
Yeah.
Or you can hire a ghostwriter today and talk to me in a year and tell me how you don't like this book and how you're actually going to have to write it. And that's happened a bunch of times with people that you would know, and even people who speak publicly about it, whether it's the Russell Brunsons or the Jeff Walkers or whoever, and said, hey, yeah, I tried that route, and then I had to scrap everything and write it myself because I knew that was going to get the best finished product. And then I did it once, and then that's went on, hundreds of thousands, millions of people have read this book.
Yeah.
So it's like a really great return on time, but in the short term, it feels like, man, I
It
don't
was
have
tough.
time to do that. Yeah.
And you don't know how it's going to turn out, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll say as somebody who went both routes, I wrote the first one super fast, right? And then I worked with Jeff and his team on Wealthy Way. And the difference was, back then, I had time. I had more time than I do today. And I was like just jumping into it. I didn't even know what I was getting into. I'm like, I'm just going to write this book. And I write this book. I wasn't making social media content or anything, so I had more time. Then as I went to this one, I was like, dude, I've already created this course. Like, I understand, like, my time is much more limited and valuable today than it was then. And I know the cost of writing a book. Like, I already knew how hard it was. And I was like, honestly, and I'm also much better at delegating today because I've just hired some. I'm like, honestly, I think somebody's going to be able to, like, help me write this better than I could write it if I find the right person. And the other benefit for me was I already had so much content out there that it's very easy to know how I speak, my message, versus a guy who's no name. He's like, we got to interview you, and like we have 5 hours to interview, and that's how I'm going to base how you speak.
Totally.
Versus like you could go watch 100 hours of my content right now, and you'll be like, I know exactly how Ryan talks.
Yeah. And that's a great point, because that's where I've seen some people have success. It's like if you already have a content writer on your team that's really good, or key content creation person, then you can get involved as a creator. It's kind of like that. I think some people call it it's like the 10-80-10 rule or something, where it's like, all right, let me get involved in that first 10% of like, all right, here's the mind map, here's the outline. All right, now and here's 30 videos where I speak about this thing, or podcast interviews or whatever. And then that person creates the shell of it, and then I come in and edit and make that better. Like I know Dan Martell uses that process. I know Michael Hyatt uses that process. Like a lot of people where they say, all right, I can add value at the beginning and at the end. And then if I've got someone really good on my content team, they can flesh out the middle.
Yeah. Dan, I just got linked with Dan 2 days ago from Pete.
Cool.
And he's coming on the show here in a couple of weeks.
Sweet. He's a great friend of mine. We go snowboarding every year up in Canada, and I just finished reading his book. It's great.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. Didn't he just release his book too?
Yeah. Buy
Cool.
Back Your Time. Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think overall, to your point, I agree. I think most people are not too busy to write a book, right? Because I come up with the same objections with content. They're like, Ryan, I'm too busy to make content. I don't have time to make videos. I'm busy running my business. And I'm like, you do have time, right? We all have the same 24 hours in the day. It's just a matter of, do you believe it's a priority or not? Do you believe that it's going to get you the ROI you're looking for? And the reality is, going through the phase of creating content, whether it's a video or a book, especially from zero, is not worth the time for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But it has this compounding effect where it becomes way worth the time over time.
Yes. Completely agree.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I remember for me, I started making content in 2020 and people thought I was stupid because I was like not going on seller appointments, closing deals, and doing things that I knew make me money. And I sacrificed that to go make content because I believed in the long run of it. I was like, dude, this content thing is going to be big. I know it. And people just don't get it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it ended up being right. But I still think that way even 5 years from now. I'm like, look, I could be doing content way better. I need books. I need other ways to consume content. I need to build an entire media company to like do this the right way because it's that valuable.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just think like I love books. I love it leading to something. Talk about that, like leading to whatever your offer is. Like where do people make the mistake in that?
Yeah. So first off, your book needs to be aligned with your business, right? And so
you're not writing a memoir
exactly
for no reason.
Which just seems obvious, but a lot of people mess that up. It's like, all right, what's the problem that my ideal customer has that they know that they have? And how do I write the book that solves that problem and introduces my business?
Right.
So it needs to be related to the business. And then you need to strategically align that content so you can bring in more leads, sales, and referrals, right? So leads, these are people who hear about you because of the book, right? So there's so many people who would never heard of ClickFunnels if it wasn't for Russell Brunson's books. Right. So it's like now they know about your business because of your book. More sales, this is people who already know about you, who decide to do business with you because of your books. And so that's using the book in all types of sales funnels, which I believe that's one of the biggest probably areas that you're leaving money on the table with this book is, all right, integrate it into the sales funnels that you already have. And you'll see every piece go up, right? The traffic to lead conversion go up, the lead to appointment go up, the appointment to show rate, webinar show up rates, webinar like every sales mechanism in your business, when you include a book in it, will go up, right? And then, so that's the more sales piece, and then the more referrals. One thing that we recommend that people do is, hey, send 2 copies of your book to every new customer and say, hey, here's 1 copy for you, and here's 1 copy for someone you know. Who
How would
needs
you
help
send
with
them
this.
to?
Just mail them.
Oh, but what if they buy it on Amazon?
Oh, I'm talking about like customers in your core business.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's like part of the onboarding. So if
Yeah.
anyone spends any decent amount of money with you,
okay.
say, hey, here's 2 copies of your book.
We always give a copy to people who buy into our coaching program. We send
Love
it
it.
to them.
Love it. So I would change that to 2. It's $5 or $10 more.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, there's only 1 string attached. You got to give this book to someone you know he needs help with this. And so now they're actively referring you business because, you might not
like
say, hey,
that.
you should do business with Chandler, but you might say, hey, oh, you're working on a book? Check out this published book. Right. And so now and we make it easy for people. So we have, it's like on our site is /friend. And so we just say, hey, anytime you know anyone who wants to write a book, just go to our URL /friend. And then just enter in their information, and we'll send them a book for free, no strings attached. So we'll ship it, we'll print it, we'll everything, and then we'll tell them you sent it.
So you just put a little note in there, just saying like, "Hey, give 1 to a friend."
Yeah, you can, yeah, for sure. So I'm kind of talking about 2 separate ideas, but like in your welcome kit, here's 2 books, 1 for you, 1 for a friend. And then the /friend kind of referral
Yeah.
piece, that's just easy for top of mind. Oh, hold up, you should work with Ryan, but that's less compelling than, oh, I think you're gonna like Ryan's stuff. Let me send you a book.
Right.
And so they're sending your book on your behalf, right? And so now they're referring you business, and it's way easier to refer a book than it is to refer business. And then now that book, you're in their home, and you're top of mind for them. And so, and then we do on the back of that, we do a dual referral program. You know, kind of like Uber Eats. Like, you know, if I share with you my code and you sign up, you get $30, I get $30, kind of thing. We do that, but with our programs where it's, all right, you get a kickback and they get a discount on the program, and all you got to do is just send them a book for free. So there's just no barrier. So that's how I look at it. Is like,
so
all right,
they'll go
lead
to the
sales
website and submit their info, and then I send them a book. Is that basically the second way?
Pretty much. It's like, all right, so imagine like, all right, I think it's like selfpublishing.com/friend.
Okay.
So I say, hey, Ryan, anytime, if you ever run into someone who wants to write a book, just go there, enter in their information. And so you enter it on their behalf, and then we send them a book.
They don't even know.
Exactly. And so it's like, oh, hey, Ryan sent you this book, and by the way, you want to chat with us to see how we can help with your book? So it's just you're making it easier for your customers to become active referrers.
I love that. Okay, I'm definitely doing the double book thing. That's great because we already do it.
Yeah.
It's just putting
Add one more. Yeah.
So I was looking at your book. You were showing me it before the show, and so like at the beginning, you have people. You can get the free Audible.
Yep.
You have the free video, and then at the end, what's the call to action at the end?
Yeah,
It's
the
like
end is book a call. Yeah.
So there's 3 different call to actions throughout the book.
And even at the start, and I would recommend this for your book, is want our help at Self-Publishing School. Like, hey, want our help implementing the content of this book? Book a call.
Okay.
And so it's just pretty direct of, hey, if you want us to help you implement the stuff you're about to read, book a call. And then at the end, hey, if you're serious about this and you just finished this whole book, so you're probably serious about this, book a call with the team and see how we can help you. So that's how we go from reader to customer.
Okay. Because I'm thinking like, okay, right now in the QR code of our book, by the way, if you read the book and you don't know this, there's a QR code that takes them to the page that says, hey, we got a free gift for you. The free gift is my Business Builder Academy, which is $1,000 course. And all it says is, hey, we'll give you this for free if you leave a review. And like, that's it.
It's great.
And so they get that. And, basically that's the call to action at the beginning and the end. We have no like sales pitch or anything. But what we are creating is a quiz. And the quiz is basically, are you living the wealthy way? And it's a way to identify the areas of your life that are deficient and what you're strong at and all this. Like, I think it's a great little tool.
I like that a lot.
And
super smart.
Yeah. So I'm like thinking, okay, and it's not ready yet. So that's why it's not in the book.
Yeah.
But I can edit the book, add that one in there for the quiz. I can still have this free course in there. And then I think I could have a book a call with my team in there too.
Yes. I think that's super smart. And it creates like, I actually talk about this in my book, is it creates like this infinity loop.
Yeah.
Where it's like people buy the book and then they take the quiz.
Yep.
Because they want to figure out how to implement the book.
Yep.
Then they tell their friend about the quiz.
Yep.
And then their friend takes the quiz. And then the results of the quiz is like, oh, you should buy this book to implement the results. And then they buy the book. And then they tell their friend about the book or about the quiz. And then it repeats the whole process. So I interviewed Gary Chapman on my podcast. The guy
Did he write 5 Love Languages?
Yep. And he said, I think it was 30 million people have taken that quiz.
Really?
And 30 or 50 million.
Gosh.
It was a crazy amount. And he sold 13 million copies of the book.
That's
and
crazy.
so another example is Strength Finders. I mean, they're always in the top 10 on New York Times bestseller list, like week in, week out. They include a copy of, or they include a code to take the Strength Finders quiz with the book.
Okay.
And so that's how the Strength Finders quiz is $30, or you can just buy a copy of the book. And so now they're perpetually on the New York Times bestseller list because people just buy the book to be able to take the quiz. So I think what you're talking about is a really underrated way to help the book become more helpful.
Yeah.
But then also to sell a lot more copies of the book.
Yeah. Or other
super
stuff.
Smart. Yeah, totally. And then you can just run ads to the quiz.
Yeah.
Separately.
Yeah, we're going to do that anyway.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
That's okay, cool. So I'm glad we're on the same page with that. So once that's ready, then I'll update the call to actions. So would the book a call be at the end? I would assume that'd be the last call to action.
You're talking about inside the book?
Yeah.
It can be. I mean, I also, so there's a stat.
Because you don't want to like have too many things.
I agree. And so there's a stat that it's like 20% of people who start books actually finish them.
Okay.
Which
yeah.
is not. So my only caveat behind having your best stuff in the back of the book is just a lot of people won't see it.
Right. But the book of calls not, I guess, like a value. I mean, it is. It's like, hey, we'll give you a consultation and all that. But I guess the quiz and the course are, in my opinion,
they're a no-brainer at the top.
Yeah.
But then my thought is for the people like you or I who are like, hey, hold up, I would love to just like
jump right into it.
Yeah. And I'm not going to read the whole book to know that you can help me with this.
Yeah.
But,
you don't
hey, I
want to
want
miss
your
out on
help.
them.
Like, let me just book a call. And so they kind of self-select into that.
I'll just have like 5 ads right at the beginning. Hey,
Yeah.
here's 5 things.
Yeah.
Pick whatever you want.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah, I'm for sure going to edit that once the quiz is ready. And shoot, by the time you guys listen to this podcast, probably already be there.
Let's do it.
It's going to be on wealthyway.com. So check it out. It might be there by the time this launches. And because I've already created the quiz. Like I've already done. It's just now the tech guys are doing it.
Cool. That's awesome, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Well, bro, I think it's great, man. Like I said, your book has helped me a lot. I think that all entrepreneurs need to create content. A book is just a really strong piece of content that sticks with you for a long time and makes it easy for you to just like tell people who you are and how you can help them. And I think it's great, dude. So it's amazing that you guys have been able to help 7,000 books go out, dude. It's super impressive.
Counting. Here we go.
It's 7,001 because you helped me.
Yeah.
I didn't get accounted for.
We'll update the count.
Yeah. But yeah, if anyone wants to go write a book, highly recommend. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so 2 best places. One thing we'll do is we're going to give away a bunch of free physical copies of this book to your audience.
Cool.
So kind of walk in our talk here. Go to publishedbook.com/Ryan.
Cool.
So publishedbook.com/Ryan. No strings attached. We'll print it, pack it, ship it, all that stuff, send you a copy of the book. And then if you're interested in working with us, just go to selfpublishing.com/apply. Book a call with the team. We'd be happy to chat with you about your book.
Cool. Guys, check it out. As always, make sure you're subscribed, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Thanks for making it to the end. The good news is I've got another one that I know you're going to like, and all you got to do is click it right here. Linking it right here. All you got to do is just click it, and you're going to see this new episode that you're going to love.